Mamma mia, it's Mario Kart, the beloved kart racing series or hated kart racing series, depending on who you ask. Kart racers are not your traditional racing experience. They differ from racing games by throwing realism out the window. They offer simple controls and usually contain wacky and whimsical worlds, lovable and cute characters, and usually contain weapon or item pickups on the track to help you slow down your foes or help you speed ahead. Not only is Mario Kart a kart racing game, to me and to many others, it's the kart racing game, as it was pretty much the first. So today we're taking a look back at where it all started. High-octane go-karts, blue turtle shells, and vehicular carnage.
Oh my God!
Welcome to Mario Kart!
Mario Kart 64 was released in North America on February 10th, 1997 for the brand new 3D console, the Nintendo 64. No more would players be confined to the second dimension. And with a brand new dimension and a new system came a cornucopia of amazing titles. And that's just what Mario Kart 64 is. Mario Kart 64 can be broken down into two modes, single player and split screen multiplayer. In single player, you'll play Grand Prix mode that sees you racing against NPCs for the chance at a gold cup. You'll then get to choose a character from a very humble roster: Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Yoshi, DK, Diabetic Mario, and Bowser. Once you've selected a character, you then choose one of the 4 cups to race in, Mushroom being the easiest and Special Cup being the hardest. All cups consist of 4 races with 3 laps each. The objective is to finish the race with the highest ranking. Each position awards certain points, and at the end of the race, all the points are tallied up and a winner is chosen. As for multiplayer, you can choose a race up to 3 other friends and see who's the fastest racer of your mom's basement, or duke it out in the balloon battle mode, which sees players in arena-style maps picking up items to damage other players. When you take damage, you lose a balloon. Last player with all the balloons is the winner. And truly, that is all there is to say about Mario Kart 64. It's a very bare-bones experience. It was the first 3D Mario Kart, and the N64 was only capable of so much. Matter of fact, the entire library of N64 games, if you added up all the memory and the files, it's less than 25 gigabytes.
And that's all I have to say about that.
But today isn't about the retro nostalgia or the feeling I get when I see rendered promotional art for the N64 that makes my brain go brr. It's about something else. This game has been talked about to death, so I need to provide a unique perspective in hopes that people click and subscribe to this channel. Well, in my opinion, it's the little things that make games from this era so special. Let me explain. When selecting a character, it's just cute portraits of their faces, but it turns out all of the characters have hidden stats. All of the characters in-game are divided into 3 weight categories: light, medium, and heavy. In a nutshell, light characters are faster, but can be trampled by heavy characters and lose their top speed when cornering. Heavies are slow, but can trample and maintain their top speed when cornering. And medium characters like Luigi are just cucks. But for most players, you can play as anybody and still find success. And that's because a big portion of Mario Kart's gameplay has a lot of luck to it. A lot of luck. Take the items in game, for instance. In Mario Kart, the worse you do, the better your items will be. The better you're doing, the worse your items will be. So if you're in last place, you have a good chance of getting the all-powerful lightning item, which shrinks your enemies down to mini-scale and slows them down, allowing you to catch up to quite literally flatten them. And usually in the higher ranks, you'll end up with banana peels or booster mushrooms. Helpful, but nothing that's going to keep you in first place for very long. Items in Mario Kart 64 are pretty basic, but there is strategy and timing to using them. The tracks you're racing on also have a variable in gameplay depth. For example, throwing down a banana on Luigi Circuit with its open lanes and soft turns just isn't as effective as leaving a banana around a tight corner in Mario Circuit, or leaving a trail of bananas on the bridge in DK Jungle Way where there's no room to move around. And speaking of tracks, there's a decent variety here in Mario Kart 64. There's race tracks, winter wonderlands, castles in lava, and of course the infamous Rainbow Road, which, if you ask my mom, it's her favorite.
Well, you know exactly what the fuck I think about that stupid game.
Although, in my opinion, this is one of the more tamer entries of Rainbow Road, as there's guardrails around the whole track, so I don't understand why it gets a bad rap. Later entries of the track would be much more difficult and wild. Not all tracks are built the same, however. For an early 3D game, there is a good attempt at making a diverse collection of maps, but some of these, well, they're pretty stinky. There's all-time bests here, but there's some stinkers as well. Take Wario Stadium, for example. It's modeled after a motocross rally complete with short winding turns, lots of jumps, and for some reason, Wario's ugly mug plastered over and over again on a cyan blue wall. On top of it being one of the ugliest tracks, it's just not that great. It's way too long, and there's actually a large jump that you can botch. If you don't make this jump, there's actually a good chance that Lakitu doesn't pick you up and place you back to where you were, and you fall back down to a previous part of the track, which is really a good chunk of the track. And, I mean, come on, just give me a checkpoint. Then you got maps like Choco Mountain, which are unique because it's brown. The most unique track in game has to be Yoshi's Valley, which is a cluster of winding and intersecting roads above a very, very steep valley. Oh, yeah, and for some reason, player position on this map is a secret. Through all the twists and turns, you won't know who's in first until you get to the end of the track. My personal favorite track is Royal Raceway, which not only has the largest jump in-game, but also has a little Easter egg nod to Super Mario 64. Driving off the path reveals Peach's castle, and it has a very close resemblance to the castle in Mario 64. Which is pretty much the only time that the castle has been this similar in two different games. And to accompany the selection of maps is a short but great soundtrack. There's only so much you can do with the sound on an N64 cartridge, but there's a couple of tracks here that are just awesome, and they do their best to sell the feeling of high-energy kart racing and fantasy worlds. And some of these are just pure nostalgia. Okay, so you did it. You beat every track, you listened to all the music, you mama'd every Mia. What's your reward? Is it secret characters, secret tracks? I mean, heck, I'd take anything at this point. No, you actually just get a title screen. You do also unlock a new mode. Now when you're selecting a CC, you'll notice Extra Mode, which the Mario Kart community has dubbed Mirror Mode. It just makes a mirror inversion of all the tracks, so instead of banking slightly to the left in Luigi Circuit, now you bank to the right. At first, it may mess with your sense of direction and make things more difficult, but overall, there's not much change. It was a way to pack more content in a game that, even for an N64 game, is a little light on content. Toad's Turnpike on Extra Mode is the only track that is slightly different, and that's because instead of racing alongside highway commuters, in Extra Mode, you race against oncoming traffic, which is just as frustrating as falling down in Yoshi's Valley. And for a video game that's almost 30 years old, that's a decent amount of detail in the little things that make this game so great in the first place. With that being said, this game is far from perfect. Some games from this era have stood the test of time. Mario Kart 64, however, is showing its age. Obviously, graphics could be better. Resolution, render distance, they're all affected by the tiny power that the N64 has. But worse than that, I've actually lied to you. This isn't a fully 3D game. Because this was an early title for the N64, developers weren't exactly sure what it was capable of, and making 3D games was still very new. So when Nintendo wanted to focus on split-screen multiplayer for their new console, they had to make it work. And if it wasn't for a certain design feature, most of this game wouldn't be playable. And that's that character models in Mario Kart 64 are not 3D. They're actually just sprites, or hundreds of images to make you think it's 3D. In development, when they had fully 3D characters and more than one on-screen at the same time, the frame rate dropped to an unplayable level, so compromises had to be made. There's enough issues with balancing and 4-player split screen with the blue shell spam. The last thing this game needed was a slow frame rate, so it was a good choice to use sprites instead of the 3D models. Single player can often be frustrating as well. While controls are standard and easy to use, the gravity and physics in game feels off. Turning sharp corners without hitting the E drift almost always means you'll run off track. Mario Kart 64 is oftentimes at its best or its worst during split-screen multiplayer. It's where the game is played differently, and of course, more competitively. Losing in Mario Kart 64 single player sucks, sure. I mean, if you don't do very well, they kinda unalive you off screen. But if you sit in a room with some buddies, Kool-Aid, and some frozen pizza, all of a sudden, winning in Mario Kart is the most important thing to happen in your life ever. I don't know why it does that. I don't care who you are or where you live, there is always one person in a group who has to win. And that person, for some reason, always knows just a little bit extra. Someone that knows how to get that boost at the start of every race. And for some reason, when they tell you how to do it, it never works, and all you do is burn out.
I told him to be careful, and the fucking first thing he does, he runs her into the mud. He's sitting there just gunning it, spinning the fucking tires, burning the engine out of it. The thing's probably fucked.
So in order to not be one of those guys, your friendly neighborhood Chetty is gonna let you in on a little secret. Now don't tell nobody I told you this, cause I learned this one from one of the greatest game reviewers of all time. It's called the banana trick. Not the same one your sister does in college. A YouTuber of the equestrian variety told me to tell you that if you run over a banana peel and time it just right by pressing the B button, you'll recover and you won't spin out. To wrap things up, Mario Kart 64 wasn't a perfect game then, and it most certainly isn't a perfect game now. But with its simple gameplay formula and memorable tracks, it's left an impression in the gaming world. There's been tons of kart racing copycats over the years with varying degrees of success, but none like Mario Kart. Seemingly, every Mario Kart has a dedicated fan base, both casual and, of course, speedrunners who are searching for new skips and techs to beat races faster. And while every iteration of Mario Kart gets bigger and bigger each time, it's still simple enough to be played and loved by everybody. And this is where it all began, Mario Kart 64. Catchy music, racing with friends, and the blue shell rage. Mario Kart 64 is just one of those games that, despite lacking in content, for me, it never gets old. Before I go, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Make sure you click the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. I've got some more on the way. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitch. I'll be streaming every day of the week starting November 30th for a follower-a-thon. It's going to be a ton of fun. Come check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Okay, I love you guys so much. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Congratulations! I'm a Wario. I'm gonna win.